So hello friends, welcome to Mentor Vikas channel, and in this video we are going to talk about how the UseSignal and the UseStore is different from each other when it came to manage the states in Qwik application, right? So both UseSignals and UseStore is being used to manage the state, right? As we had already discussed and I had shown you with examples, but here the main focus would be how these two are different from each other and where should we use signal and where we should go with use store, right? So as you go through the documentation part of the Qwik application, right? So here you will see that if you want to manage some static data, right? So for those type of data you have to use signal or even use store. That means if I have if I have some data which is static in nature, so in both cases it is good to go with use signal and use store, right? Okay, so we understand for managing the static data we use these, right? So what are the static data? Static data could be a string, could be a number, could be an object, could be an array, or could be a combination of multiple values, right? Okay, and what basically the second point which you had just seen here, a reactive state on the other hand is created with use signal and use store, right? So what does it mean? It simply means that if you are willing to change the value of state, okay, so whenever I call the state, it simply means if you are coming from the JavaScript, it simply means that variable. Okay, so we are talking about a variable which could be a static variable, right? But if in our case, for example, we want to change that variable, and based upon the changed value of our variable, we just want to re-render our component. Okay, so in such cases we must go with to manage our state, to manage the variables value, we must go with use signal and use store, right? So in Qwik application we doesn't call that variables, so here we call them states, right? So the reason behind calling it state, it simply means that it's a kind of state like liquid state, solid state and gaseous state, right? So it's represent the different so same object but different scenarios, right? So in the same way we are also, if some variables have to change its value over the time, then or in any cases we want to make that value dynamic in nature, right? So in such cases we can use signal and use store in our Qwik application, right? But whenever we wants to deal with some single value, okay, right? For example, we just want to deal with the string or some alphabetic or some short of number, or maybe an array, right? So in such cases we should go with use signal. Okay, but for example, let's say we want to manage more than a single value, right? So in such cases we should go with use store, right? For example, if you want to manage as an object, okay, and that object contains a number of values. For example, maybe it's maybe an object contains a number of variables. You may call it like first name, last name, age, your email, and basically it could be an registration form, right? So here if you are willing to manage multiple values in a same by using the same state, right? So you can go with use store, right? So I think the difference is quite clear, and there is no need to explain much more, right? But the one thing which you have to understand here, whatever the value you are willing to manage with that use signal, you have whenever you want to change its value. For example, here in our case maybe it's the variables that we are using here is the count, okay, and if I want to change this value, that is the count, then I have to mention like this, okay, like count dot value. Okay, so for example here maybe it is not that count, maybe it would be a name, and here we are not willing not managing with a number, here could be a string, right? So if I want to change the value of this first name, maybe for example in our case it would be first name, then I have to mention here, okay, so the new value could be name dot value is equals to the name that we want to change, right? So we have to go through this process, okay? Or even though if I want to access this value, I should go with count dot value, right? So this is the case when you are dealing with the UseSignal, right? But in case of UseStore, if I want to match the data with the UseStore, right? So we don't have to just say okay, state dot value, state dot to manage for example to manage this count value. I don't have to go with like state dot value dot count. Okay, I don't have to do that, right? So what I can say, well, I can simply call like this straight dot count, and whatever the value I want to change here, or I want to replace this value, I can simply mention here. For in this example we had just increases 1 plus, so 1 more to our previous value, right? So if I want to just decrease 1, so I just have to go with like minus minus, and it could decrease the values. For example, as you can see here, we had just mentioned here, okay, whatever the value of this count variable, this count key is being increased by 1, right? So as if I just click here, you can see it increases by 1. If I again click this, again click this, then it is increased by 1, right? So this is a kind of increment component which is being called here. Okay, so the one thing that you have to understand, like whenever you are dealing with the Qwik, you have to use this $sign. Okay, and why we are using this $sign? Because this is the point from which our application basically breaks this component into chunks, right? So whenever you click this button, it simply goes to the server and call this limited JavaScript just to perform this action, right? So I think now you have a clear understanding of why and where you should use UseStore and where you should go with UseSignal, and what is the basic difference between these two, right? So even though if you can just go here like an example, a big example where I think it could be a great example if you are just willing to see how it could be implemented in our Qwik application. So as you can see here, initially we had imported the component and UseStore, and this component is used to create this component, the whole component, right? So after doing all this, I had just taken an object, and it is a nested object, right? So in this object I had again taken a field that is nested, and in this nested is again going to be an object, and in this nested object we have an new key which is field, and here in this field value this again is an object, and here we have that R. So this R is also an key value, so okay, and its value is also tracked, right? So the next variable, so the next key that we had taken in this object is the list, and it is an array, right? So it's simply an, so here we are just simply representing a nested object, right? And just if I just want to access the value of this R, what should I go? I just follow the structure. So first started with the store dot nested dot field dot R, and this is how we can simply access the value of this R in our component. So as you can see here, if I just want to print this value to our component, I have to just simply go with the simple structure, right? So started with the store, then nested, then fields, and then finally R. Okay, and if I just want to access this value, what should I go with? What should I type? I just go with like store dot list, and just by doing this I am able to access this value, right? Okay, so as you can see where we had uses this list, so let's see here. So here we had on click of this button, and which is the add to the list, right? So on click of this button, what is basically happen, the store.list, whatever the value of the list store.length, the store.list.length is going appended to this store.list. Okay, and that is how we can simply push the new value of the store length to our empty array, so or in our list, right? So as we just click add to list button, right? So at the same time we had also map this value. So map this value means we had just want to display display the element of this list over in our component. So what we had basically do, because we know that it's an array, so we just uses the JavaScript map function, right? Map method, and by using this map method we had simply print out, we had just create the bullet points whenever a new value is added. So for example, as you can see here, if I just click this button, as you can see what is going to be changed here. As I click this, now we have tracked. If I just click once again, we have tracked. Okay, and if I just click click me work because the store is deeply watched, or whenever you click this, the store is deeply watched. This simply means that on this click button, what we had just done here, we had just changed this value, which is also tracked to the tracked, right? As you can see here, the value of this R is also tracked, but what we had done here, we had simply perform an action, and on performing this action, that is the click of this button, I should change this value that is also tracked to the tracked, right? So this is the common function that we had done here, and that is why as earlier it was for example, just make me refresh it. So as you can see, it is not tracked. So as if I just clicked on this, it just converted to tracked, right? So that is how it basically works. So I think now you have a clear understanding of why and how you can use the UseStore and the UseSignal in your Qwik application. For now, for this video, I think this is quite enough, right? So let's meet in our next video, and there we will understand about the methods. So what is this methods, and how we can create the different methods, and how we can use that methods in our Qwik application, right? So for this video, just end it here, and soon I will meet you in our next video.